Hello guys, Joe speaking. Welcome to LJPCBM Reacts, episode number 711, and today I'm reacting to Purple Roads Podcast, episode 75. Matt Vogel, who's Muppet performer, Big Bird, The Count, and so forth. And react to this begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, go.
I'm Carrie Stinson, and my journey through life has been quite an adventure. For over 20 years, I played Barney the Dinosaur on tour, and 7 seasons of the hugely popular TV show, Barney and Friends. Now, my journey is to bring together friends and guests from all over the entertainment world for inspiring and at times amusing behind-the-scenes conversation. I'm Carrie Stinson, and this is Purple Roads.
Okay.
Welcome to Purple Roads. My name is Carrie Stinson, and I am thrilled that you're here this week. We have someone that I've wanted to have on this show for so long. I can't believe I haven't met him before because it just feels like at some point we would have done it. But we have Matt Vogel, you know, Kermit the Frog, the Muppets, Big Bird. We can go on and on and on, and we will.
Yeah.
Matt, how are you?
I'm great, Carrie. How you doing today?
I'm good. I'm good. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Well, like I just said, I feel like we should have met at some point.
I know, yeah. I can't believe that we haven't, but you know what? Here we are, and this is great. So let's do it.
Yeah, absolutely. And so
Yeah.
many places I want to go. So let's just start from the beginning, I guess. How did you get into puppeteering and all of the things that you do?
Sure. Well, I grew up during the 70s where, first generation Sesame Street watcher and Muppet Show watcher. And I was fascinated. I loved, in particular, the Muppet Show. I also loved Sesame Street. The characters just popped off out of the screen for me, you know, and I just loved it. I built my own puppets out of T-shirts that I took from my dad's drawer. And I didn't know what I was doing. I was probably 7 or 8.
Wow.
I just used masking tape and I just cobbled together these very rough puppets. But I was compelled to do it. I was inspired to do it. And I would entertain the kids in the neighborhood. I would, go around, make my brother get behind the sofa, and we'd do shows for our family, or what else would we do? My dad built us a stage. He built a stage out of some plywood and paneling, actually. And we would do shows for church and for the PTA in our town. But that was I didn't know that it was something that you could actually do for a living. I never thought of it that way at all. I was just in awe of these people that I knew probably very little about, Jim Henson and Frank Oz and Jerry Nelson and Dave Goelz and Richard Hunt and Carol Spinney and Fran Brill. I knew very little about them growing up, but I was introduced to a book called Of Muppets and Men. And in that book, it was
That was just amazed me. I have to read this book sometime soon. Continue on.
Speaking of the Muppet Show, Carrie, I don't know if you know this book, but it's this great book. It's a great book, and in it they kind of show you everything. They show you how the Muppet Show was made, and you can see the pictures of the puppeteers with their arms in the air, and I was fascinated by that. Fascinated by every time I would watch Sesame Street or the Muppet Show, and every once in a while you might see like a little head right in the corner, or the sub sleeve where the live hand goes in and you see the sub sleeve part of the puppet. And I knew there was more going on down below that frame, and I was fascinated by it, but never knew that it would be something that I could do for a living.
Now, were you also doing the voices? Were you making up your own voices?
Oh yeah. I wrote shows. They were usually kind of loose plagiarizations of like other shows, like Charlie Brown. Like we had like a kind of a
Don't get me started on Charlie Brown. Continue on.
What was it? It was like a Great Pumpkin type I'm just remembering this just now, so it's a little fuzzy, but we did some sort of like Great Pumpkin show, a Halloween show, and we would do the voices. My dad had acquired a sound system, a very ancient, probably from the maybe early 60s sound system that we would wear these microphones around our neck, and kind of lav mics, but they were
Sure.
like this big. They were big and chunky. My brother and I, who were small, we put these.
Right.
The mics just felt giant around our necks, and that's how we would project our voice. But it was a fun time for me. I had a great time. I don't know how much fun my brother had, but
have you ever talked about that?
oh
Wow.
sure, yeah. He just he reluctantly but willingly went along. He did it, and he's a great guy. He's
Wow.
one of my biggest supporters. So
I love that. So
Wow.
when do you start realizing that you could make money doing this? And there's a fine line with that, because I have a feeling you feel like I do about it, that it's way more than that. Being able to entertain and do what you love and all those things is way more than money. When did you start realizing that this was something that was possible?
well, it was in college, I think.
Wow.
And a friend of mine, my roommate, Chad Harris, had been doing something over the summer. He was going to do something over the summer, a water safety show with puppets, and he knew that I had puppets, so I brought along some puppets, and we kind of did this show together over the summer, and I got paid for it. And that was kind of where I realized that I could make money at it. But still, again, it was very, the dreams were very near. They weren't far away. They were right where I was. I was in St. Louis. That's where I went to college.
Wow.
And later, after college, I moved back home to Kansas City for a year to make money. I went to college to be an actor, so my ultimate goal at that moment was to go to New York City to become an actor. And in the meantime,
on screen stuff.
Yeah, stage, screen, whatever. Okay. I was trained as a theater actor, and so I went back to Kansas City to make some money to move to New York. And in doing so, I created a show called the Puppy Joe Traveling Show, and it was this little puppet that I had made. And I scheduled a series of 4 or 5 shows throughout the summer, and I just kind of cold called preschools and daycare centers and all throughout the Kansas City area. And this time I didn't hire my brother to do this. I hired a friend of mine named Brian Stubler, who was a good friend of mine back in Kansas City, and we went around Kansas City doing these puppet shows, and I made money that way to earn enough money to go to New York City.
It's interesting. I was thinking about this as you're saying all this. What we have today, obviously, with YouTubes and podcasts, and there's so much information out there.
Yeah.
Wow. People that are willing to help people. But back then, I mean, you're just really figuring it out.
Yeah, that's true. I mean, yeah, I had no idea. I knew, like I say, I knew about the Muppet style of puppetry, which is using a television monitor, but using a TV to watch your performance. But there weren't YouTube videos that I could look at or any other resources like that. Actually, when I was a senior in college, our class traveled to New York to do a showcase, an acting showcase, and I also decided at that time, why not? I'm going to make a puppet video. So I made a puppet video, trying to use the monitor. I sent it to New York to the Jim Henson Company, and they sent me a very nice rejection letter that I still have. And it was ultimately the person that sent me the rejection letter. Her name is Renee Rochelle. She was the talent coordinator at the time. And eventually, when I moved to New York, she kind of took me under her wing and guided me through some of my early days at Muppets.
Wow,
it's fascinating.
Yeah.
So what's because we've all had no. So you get the letter. That obviously didn't stop you.
Yeah.
Did it make you want to train more? Did it make you go, I need to get to them? Kind of what did that fire did it light under you?
I wasn't I guess I wasn't that fazed by it because my goal at that time was to go to New York to be an actor anyway. It wasn't to be a Muppet performer. I still was thinking, there are already people that do that. There are people that do that. I'm not going to be one of those people. I'm going to go and be an actor.
Mm-hmm.
And I had, so it didn't faze me. I had an experience though when I was a freshman in middle school.
Mm-hmm.
It was called junior high then.
Wow.
I was
Yeah.
I was a ninth grader, and we had a talent show, and at this talent show again, I'd written a show and performed this show with my friend Brian Stubler, and we won the talent show.
Wow.
And I remember hearing as they said my name and as we went up there, I remember hearing boos. I remember hearing, it wasn't like I wasn't inundated with it, but I could hear a few people. And that really shook me. That did shake me enough that I put the puppets away and I did not take them out I didn't do them at school anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I turned to acting then after that. But that was something that could have really, it did affect me at the time, but not something that kind of stuck for too long.
Wow.
Yeah, I think, and I think that's important because, obviously I was told no many times. And I just kept going. And it can definitely be something that, that gets your attention and you have to work through.
Yeah, I agree.
Mm-hmm.
So you get to New York. When do we get to the Muppet story and Sesame Street story?
Not long after, actually. Before I had moved to New York, we went up to get an apartment, and my then girlfriend, now wife, Kelly, we had moved. We went to New York to get an apartment. We found an apartment, but we couldn't get in for a month, so we were going to go back to Ohio to stay with Kelly's mom.
Wow.
And while we were on our way back to Ohio, Kelly saw in the acting backstage newspaper, she saw an ad, and this ad had a picture of Kermit the Frog, and it said, "Do you measure up to be a Muppet?" And it said they were looking for somebody that's, my size, my height, left-handed, and here's an address to write to, and maybe a phone number. And it was me. It was describing me in this ad. I am left-handed. I'm a right-handed puppeteer, but I am left-handed. So I answered this ad. I either wrote a letter, which I feel like I wrote a letter, and probably called. I probably did both because I was like, oh, why not? Let's just take a shot at it. And I soon got a call back saying, well, we're going to wait. Let us know when you're in New York. And I was like, oh, that's weird, but okay. I guess, maybe it was scheduling. I'm sure it was, a lot of different people scheduling, and there's some time, maybe they weren't necessarily waiting for me. So we moved to New York, and it was at the end of the year. It was in November, I think, early December, that I had an audition for the Jim Henson Company, and it was with John Henson, Jim's youngest son, who's now passed on, and he was doing a Coca-Cola polar bear puppet that they had created, a full body character. So you know what this is like.
I do.
It was a prototype actually, and John was going around and doing Coca-Cola polar bear appearances at Coke events, and he did the Olympics. He did a bunch of other. He skied. He was skiing in this big Coca-Cola polar bear at the Olympics, and he wanted somebody that could step in for him if he was not available. He was very busy, and so I had the audition with him. That's where I met. I said Renee Rochelle a little while back. That's where I met her for real this time, and John. I was the last guy to audition. And John asked me if I wanted to go to lunch that day. And I was like, yes, I absolutely want to go to lunch with you, John Henson. We had lunch. We had lunch, and I probably told him everything that I've told you up to now. And then he said, yeah, you want to come to my house for New Year's Eve? I was like, yeah, absolutely. So Kelly and I went up to his place. It was an old schoolhouse on New Year's Eve. He had renovated this old schoolhouse, and it was amazing. It was just this really cool experience to go from, just moving to New York and, days, weeks later, having this audition for this company that I, have been so inspired by as a kid. Again, never really thinking this is what I'm going to do because everyone,
Right.
I can do this. I was still thinking I was going to be an actor. And I started doing this Coca-Cola Polar Bear when John was not available. And the reason why they needed a left-handed performer is because they wanted him to be able to shake hands with people. So the hand went up inside the head, my left hand to move the mouth and blink the eyes or make a grin. I think he had a grin. And then the right hand could shake people's hands.
Oh, and for example, because I'm left-handed, so, and I don't know what happened to the right hand because it was difficult for me to do. Continue on.
And there was a camera in the nose of the Coca-Cola Polar Bear, if I remember correctly. It was either the nose or I think it was the nose. And I wore a monitor so that I could see where I was going. And so that was my first real experience with a professional puppet. First time I had done a walk around.
I was wondering if you'd been in a body puppet before that.
No, it was the first time I had ever been inside a full body puppet. And it was fun. It was exhausting. It was it was hard work. It's your whole body is working in there. And that was kind of how I got into the Muppets. I'd gotten my foot in that way thanks to John Henson.
Wow.
Well, and just hanging out with John Henson. I mean, that obviously everyone knows the name. I mean, that's got to be an unbelievable experience. I'm curious. So you're in a body puppet. What are you thinking? Because it's
it's
my
hot.
first time. Right. It's hot.
It's not very comfortable. I'm glad I'm not claustrophobic.
Right. Yeah, because that's a big part, obviously. And then you kind of go, so this is where my career. You probably never saw it going there, but it's such a cool thing to be doing.
Yeah, it was really cool. I mean, I remember, like, in particular, there was an appearance. I must have done it it must have been in Atlanta. I'm sure it was at a big Coke corporate event, a big Coca-Cola corporate event. And I remember, doing whatever appearances I had to do. And then there was a concert that night, and the B-52s were there. And I was so excited. It was just really cool to kind of be like, wow. And I was very close to them, watching them, and it was just wild to suddenly, go from this kid in the Midwest to now being, going to Atlanta and doing this thing for the Jim Henson Company and getting to see the B-52s right in front of me. And, it was wild. It was crazy. I still didn't think that this was my career, though. I still did not think that this was the thing I was going to be doing. I still felt outside. I still felt pretty outside the group,
How long did you do that for?
It wasn't that long, really. Maybe a year, maybe a little more than a year, because, again, Renee Rochelle called and said, can you do a Big Bird voice? And I said, oh, yes, of course. Never thought about that. But you're supposed to say yes. So I said, yes, of course I have done a Big Bird voice. And she said, well, Carol is looking for somebody to step in for him when he's unavailable.
Right.
He liked to take vacations and he enjoyed his life a lot. And there were things that he didn't really necessarily want to do anymore. He was 65 at the time.
Yeah. Though at a time in his 50s, 60s, he's overrated. I'm not saying overrated. I'm just saying he's tiresome, and he's been doing vacation breaks at the time. So, yeah, it's more he's taking a break for in between now and then, and he's doing an Oscar. What I heard from episodes of Sesame Street. Continue on.
Well, that's kind of retiring age, but Carol had no intention of retiring, and he just wanted somebody to be there for him just in case. So that audition, I had never met Carol, and Renee introduced me to him at the time and said, Carol, this is Matt Vogel, Carol Spinney, and Carol's eyes lit up, and he said, oh, Vogel, your name means bird. This may be the job for you.
Wow.
So I kind of lucked out that Carol knew German.
Yes, yes.
And I did the audition, and there were other people there that I'm now very good friends with. Other people at this audition, but I didn't know them at the time. Again, I kind of felt like this outsider. And Carol was wonderful, and he picked me, and we had a couple of other sessions, just the two of us inside Big Bird, which is a whole other different kind of full body puppet, and to do someone else's character in front of them is not the most comfortable thing to do,
Right.
It feels a little awkward because you're trying to impress them, of course.
Right.
Which, by the way, I've seen some bits of what he said about filling in for me, Carol, and Matt. I saw a documentary on I Am Big Bird in 2015, which I purchased on iTunes, and it was a great documentary overall. Continue on.
But it's just it's a weird thing. But Carol was always so supportive of me and always so kind and generous. He treated me like a son. Both he and his wife Debbie treated me like a son, and I love them for that.
And I want to talk about that. Before I'm curious, because I've been in that experience as well. Of can you do this? Well, sure I can. And then I got to go figure. I didn't know how to dance. They asked me if I could dance. I had to go learn how to dance. So I totally get that.
Yeah.
So what did you do? Okay, so you get off the phone and now you got to start working on the Big Bird voice.
Yeah, of course I knew Big Bird and I could hear him in my head, but I'm not like I will be the first to admit that I'm not a spot-on impersonator or mimicker of someone's voice. I can get the intonation and I can get the musicality, but I'm not like a straight voice match, which that's just not what I do. I do my best at it. And so what I did is I went out and I got a CD of Big Bird's greatest hits. I think it was called The Bird is the Word. And I just listened to that over and over, and it was just...
Which I heard from a YouTuber named, you know what I mean. Continue on.
Big Bird singing. And in my head, I hear that Big Bird that I heard when I was a kid. So it was a lot higher pitched than probably where Carol was at that time, just because of how our voices age. And but that was what I clued into. I went out and got this CD and I just listened to it relentlessly. And again, there was no YouTube, so I couldn't go and just watch endless clips at this time. So.
Yeah, I just saw that from a YouTuber. I don't know what it was back then, but it was but until years later, it was a remix of a Sesame Street Beam, Closer Beam remix. I was like, oh my god, this is gonna be hilarious to watch. Continue on.
So that's how I did it. That's what I did, and thankfully Carol thought I was good enough to work with.
And what is that like? What is that like when Carol Spinney says? That's good enough. I mean, that worked. That's it.
That's kind of when I started to think, oh, this is like a bigger deal than what I was kind of thinking all of this was. And I had been doing a little bit of monitor work on my own. I had done a new puppet video. That I had sent to Renee, and she was like, "You're good. Okay, we're going to get you into these workshops, these puppet workshops," and just being able to realize that this was bigger than what I thought it was, and try to go with it is it's a little daunting, but at first, but Carol was always so supportive and always just like I said, so kind, and he would give me little pointers, or he was very kind of hands off. Really, he trusted me very early on. I feel like, and he said that to me, and his wife Debbie also said he trusts you, and so that's a big responsibility to take that trust. Carol had created this character,
right?
many years before, and was entrusting me with keeping it alive if he was unable to do so at any point. So it was a big responsibility, but of course you can't think about that
Right.
when you're doing it. You got to think about fall back on acting training and think about the character and how this character is pure, what this character means.
Yeah.
And,
Yeah.
you know.
It's all mind blowing. I got the chance to work with him, and I met Debbie, and I have talked about it on this show a lot of times because I've never seen anything like it. He was the absolute kindest person in the world. His skill level was one of the most amazing things I had ever seen. I've told it on this show, but the short of it is we were doing a remote. So Barney and Big Bird were showing up in, Good Morning Pittsburgh, Good Morning Dallas, Good Morning New York. Yeah. And at one point, he starts doing Oscar's voice from Big Bird. Big Bird is having a conversation with Oscar that, of course, is not there. And didn't tell me any of the things that's going to happen. So now I am having a conversation with Oscar and him, and he just did it off the fly.
Yeah, Carol was very in the moment. Like he was just I thought he was a great actor. He was very in the moment. His line readings were often, they're different from take to take, which means it's really alive and still popping, and there's some real heart to it, is what I always felt. And so I'm not at all surprised that he would suddenly just start talking as Oscar, and Big Bird is also there.
Yeah, and the other thing I always remember is how, as you understand, and everyone wanted to talk to him. Everyone wanted to hear his stories, everything. And so I had a dresser there, and we do these separate. Barney is a 2-actor situation, and so Bob West was there, and so everyone wants to ask Carol all these questions. And at one point, Carol goes, "Is Carrie okay? Does Carrie need..." The one that was more concerned about me than anyone, because I couldn't get in and out. It's a longer process.
Oh my gosh, yeah.
But he wanted to make sure I had water and towels and all that. And of course, everyone else takes amazing care of me. But he was able to answer all the questions and concerned himself about me. And I just, you're so excited to get to meet someone. And he's bigger and better. And I could have never imagined.
Yeah, that's very Carol to me. Hearing that it's a very Carol.
Yeah.
To make sure that you're okay.
So for you, when do you? Because you've got 2 things going on, right? You're trying to learn the character. When do you start realizing how big this is and the importance for kids, and everyone knows the voice, and everyone knows Big Bird? And I mean, we're not talking about the U.S. We're talking about everyone around the world knows this character. When do you start letting that in a little bit to yourself?
Well, to me, even still, this is a character that I'm taking care of for Carol. Even though Carol's not here to do that right now. So it almost feels like it's kind of off of me. I'm only in that I'm taking care of it for Carol.
Right.
Of course, it's a big responsibility, and I don't know that I ever didn't feel that it was a big deal.
Yeah.
But I also was very mindful and continue to be that the person that came before me created this character, and it's my job, my duty to try to continue the legacy of that character, the heart of that character, for as long as I am allowed to do that with whatever characters that I play.
Yeah.
I don't know exactly when it would have hit me how big it was. I guess I always knew that, being a part of Sesame Street was a big deal.
Right.
And it just very organically happened. I don't even, I had a job at a pet food store while I worked in New York. While I was in New York, I had a job as an assistant to a dean of business at Fordham University. I was also trying to do acting jobs, and once I couldn't do those things anymore because Sesame Street responsibilities at Sesame Street were too many, that's when I knew, oh wait, this is what I'm doing now. This is my job. This is the thing that I'm going to do. Why, I'm one of the guys that gets to do this.
Man.
Then it becomes real and insane. It's insane.
What's it like the first time Big Bird, as you get to interact with people, when you're actually not just doing it for a show or something, but you're actually out in the public?
There's a couple different scenarios that I can think of off the top of my head. We used to do this Christmas tree lighting at Lincoln Center, right across the street from where the Sesame Workshop corporate offices are. And we would put together this show, and that was maybe the first time that I, inside Big Bird, because Carol was, I think he usually would, at the end of the season in December, he and Debbie would go off, they would go to Ireland for Christmas, and they would kind of just have an extended time there. So he was not available to do these Christmas tree lightings, so I was going to do them, and it was a live appearance, which is kind of a good practice for somebody that's trying to do this. And coming out, like from the tent, that first time, and hearing this crowd of people recognize Big Bird is I can't explain it. It's like a feeling. It's a feeling of joy, like just of happiness and love and pure joy, which because that's what that character inspires in people and brings out of people. And I was feeling that love inside the puppet, so there's that, and that's nice, and that makes you feel really, really good. And then there have been times when I have had the honor of doing visiting a sick child, and their families, and the impact of that, the impact that Big Bird has on that family, and their understanding that this moment is important to Big Bird to be there with their child, is moving in a whole other way, and just as important, and maybe if not more important, to have that kind of effect on a child, like directly with them and their family. So those are the really kind of the best. Those live moments are really special, and also those really personal moments when you are with somebody and they and their family. Those are also really special moments,
Yeah, I couldn't wait to get to that subject, because I did thousands over the years, and Make-A-Wishes and those things. I was 23 when I started the role of Barney, when I started playing Barney, and I was looking for a job. I was kind of what you're talking about doing, and all of a sudden you understand there's a whole different thing going on here, and you understand there's a responsibility. That when you're that character, it's all the things you're saying. I'm smiling inside and out talking to you, because I learned all those things that I didn't know when they took me to a hospital. I had no idea what I was in for.
Yeah. And
how those kids are the most amazing I've ever seen, and how they you were so real to them, and they have these conversations with you, and there's just another level. So obviously I know the costume's hot, and I know all of those things, but all of a sudden that all goes away, and you're just
it does
in this, and you see some of the most incredible things. I've gone into burn units and had kids sing the "I Love You" song, which you're like, how is that possible? And they're telling you they love you and all of that, and you're it's incredible. What was like for you going a little deeper into this, when you go in the first time and you really see how important Big Bird is to these kids, and to glad you said that, and to the families?
Yeah, it is. I mean, we've had lots of children come to the set of Sesame Street to visit, and it's a moment when you're when I feel like I'm really connected with humanity.
Wow.
You know, I'm really connected with with what it means, to be these characters and how important they are. Because you're right, the children and a lot of times adults too see these characters as real, because they are. They
Right.
exist in the real world. They go out and you see them here and there, and they're real. They can hug you. They can actually touch you and make contact with you, and they're real. And
Wow.
when someone brings their child in, and you have that moment to interact with the child and then the parents and then the family, etc., it's like I said, it's this feeling of, it's the essence of what humanity should be.
Yeah, it's such an amazing thing, this experience. And what was it like for you when you go in to this hospital and you see how important Big Bird is, these kids, and obviously to their parents and siblings?
Mm-hmm.
Oops.
Did you not hear me? Did we?
Yeah, I didn't hear you there. You kind of went away and then you froze for some.
I don't know what's going on here.
It's
Telling me.
On. What was that?
Here. Did we?
Yeah, I didn't hear you there. You kind of went away and then. Oops.
Did you not hear me? Siblings.
Oops.
Did you not hear me? Did we?
Yeah, I didn't hear you there. You kind of went away and then you froze for some.
I don't know what's going on here. It's telling me. Let me see something here real quick.
Come on, Carrie and
If I can take care of this.
Matt. Jeez. A little bit of technical issue there, folks.
I apologize about this. Sorry.
You're fine, Carrie.
Can you hear me? Can you not hear me? Can you not hear me? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay.
Thank
I'm
God.
trying to turn everything else off, so I don't know what was going on, but yeah. Of course, I've never had this problem until
I know, it always happens. It's weeks and weeks of clear, perfect Wi-Fi, and then.
right.
Yeah, I agree. The thing is that I don't know what was going on. I was like, can you hear me? Can you hear me? Hello? Hello? But, dude! Carrie! I don't know what's wrong with this thing, you know? But, if you watch this Carrie Simpson, I do apologize. I really love having delays, like symptoms, difficulties, but, that was irritating purposes only. Continue on.
This happened. All right, I'll ask that question again.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what was it like for you when you go in and you realize, how important this is to the kids, the siblings, and the parents?
This is it's a very good question. What I feel about it is, I feel like it's that moment of pure humanity where both sides of this family and Sesame Street or whoever it might be, they're coming together for this very pure moment of humanity, of love, of kindness, of all the things that Sesame Street stands for. But it should be the thing that everybody in the world stands for. It's this really pure moment of humanity. It is one of the more difficult things to do, because it is emotionally difficult in that little moment that we are there. But for a family that's going through a tremendous amount of grief or heartache or difficulty, there's probably nothing better for them in that moment. And I love those moments of humanity. I really
Well,
do.
it changed my whole perspective on everything, on life,
Yeah.
humanity as you see, because you really see that we're all in this together.
Yeah.
I kind of laugh, and I understand the whole point that people will say, what you did for those kids. I'm like, what those kids did for me is more than I could have ever have done for those kids without question.
I
It
agree.
changed my
Yeah, it's
life.
very reciprocal. It's very reciprocal. Yeah, you're getting just just as much, if not more, than what you're giving them.
Seeing things, you see how fearless they are, and you're seeing things that I went into one. A little girl hadn't spoken in 2 years, and
Wow.
I didn't know this. And so we're having I'm playing and we're doing all this stuff, and everyone's crying, and you don't find out till later what just happened. And I think we talk about how, especially this is why I love this interview, is that with Big Bird and with Barney, what you see on TV is what they are.
Mm-hmm.
There's no different. They are as real as they can be. I know Bear and the Big Blue. A lot of those characters do so well because what the kids see on TV. Now they're probably, and you probably get this, they're a lot bigger than they expect. Like Big Bird comes in a room.
Yeah. You can have a couple different reactions to Big Bird entering a room. Thankfully, usually it's the one where people are happy and smiling, and it's great. But I have had times where you enter a room and a child is just not ready for it. Usually on set on Sesame Street, and you'll enter the room, or they'll put the puppet on me, and it's just too much. Then they can't handle it because they're looking at it on a box or on their little device or whatever it is. He seems relatively small, but he is a very big bird. He's aptly named.
Wow.
Yes. Well, I'm doing this interview and I'm sitting in my head the whole time going ask about Kermit.
Whoa. Another difficulty.
Talk about Kermit. So I gotta talk about Kermit.
Yeah.
When did that happen?
That was in 2017.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
And I had been part of the core Muppet performers for what I call the Disney Muppets, just to differentiate them from the Sesame Street Muppets.
Okay.
I've been a part of those Muppets since 2008, when I took on the roles that were originally performed by Jerry Nelson, who was a great Muppet performer and a good friend of mine, and I had the pleasure of right-handing for him, assisting him, helping him out for many years on Sesame Street as his right hand for the Count. Jerry played the Count, along with many other fantastic roles for the Disney Muppets. And so in 2008, he decided, or 2007, he decided he did not want to travel anymore. And so I then was not given those roles, but we talked about those roles, and I took those roles on. And then in 2017, Steve Whitmire left the Muppets, and there was a need to fill that role. And it was a process, a very difficult process, a long process, not only difficult because Steve was no longer there, but difficult just in trying to figure this out, what to do, what steps to go next.
Okay.
And Disney really wanted Kermit to have the essence of Jim's Kermit, and that is kind of what I now try to do. That was the Kermit that I grew up with. Although I worked a lot with Steve, and I worked with his Kermit for years and years and years, and but that was kind of the way that they wanted to go for it, and so that was what our instructions were. And in 2017, I got a call, and they said, "You're Kermit," which is as daunting, if not more daunting, than being told you're Big Bird. It's a big thing. Those are big flippers to fill.
It's a really big thing, and I've told a few family members that you were going to be on, and all I get is Kermit. They all, I'm like, ah, Kermit.
Wow.
Now, obviously, Kermit and Big Bird do have their demeanors. There's a little bit there that's the same in that aspect of it. What is it like for you? Well, obviously the voice. We want to talk about the voice. Now, Kermit got maybe a little wider range.
Yeah, I think how I would look at it is Big Bird is an innocent, not that Kermit isn't. The Muppets in general are innocents. They are innocents, all of them.
Mm-hmm.
Big Bird just happens to be a 6-year-old innocent, and Kermit is, however old he is, however old it
Right.
is in frog years. I don't know how
Right.
it is, but he is that age in frog years. He's a little bit more wise to the world.
Yeah, born 1954. You know that? Actually, 1955. Excuse me. According to my status right now, he is 61. Continue on.
He can be a little bit more snarky. He can be a little bit more playful. He can get doggone mad, like downright mad at somebody. And both characters, I feel like, are three-dimensional characters. They're fully rounded characters, and they're both really fun to play. But yeah, they are, I guess, similar in that they are innocents. All of them are innocents.
What's it like working on to get his voice? Do you have confidence now because you've done Big Bird?
Yeah, I mean, there is a certain confidence that comes with having done this for many, many, many years, and then I took over for the Count, and then I took over for all of those roles that Jerry did. So I've had a lot of performance under my belt. It's not quite the same as taking on Kermit, I think. For me, vocally, for months and months and months, I would just listen to Jim Henson. If I could hear interviews of Jim, I would listen to interviews of Jim. If I would listen to Kermit being interviewed, or I would listen to different iterations of songs that Jim had recorded as Kermit, or Kermit performances. I would listen to those. I wanted to try to get kind of both sides of it, Jim's side of it and the Kermit side of it. And we had the great fortune of working with Brian Henson.
Wow.
And he had us there and workshopped with us, and he would point us in a certain direction. He called it having this ooey gooey feeling in the voice, this ooey gooiness that's how he heard Kermit, and he heard his dad. And so that's what now, I tried to put that in it. But for me, I've been doing it for 3 years now.
Wow.
And again,
according to my episode tape and status, it's now 4 years. Like 2018, 2019, 2020, 2021. Yeah, 2021. Continue on.
Like I said before, I'm not a voice match, but I feel that my acting ability and my heart and intention are in the right place, and the vocal quality working on, just like I work on with Big Bird, just like I work on with the Count. I work on all of those vocal qualities, and I'll still go back and listen to the original performer. I'll still go and listen to Carol. I'll go and listen to Jerry. I'll listen to Richard Hunt is another performer that I've taken a character on from, and of course Jim. And all of those things, just kind of having those things at my fingertips now is great. It's a great help to me to be able to have those to help me work on vocal qualities. And then I've also got Dave Goles, who is a veteran Muppet performer for over 40 years.
Wow.
Who's kind of guiding us all, not just me, but the whole group of Muppet performers. He's kind of guiding us all and giving us pointers and tips and hints, and so I'm very lucky in that respect to have so much support from all the Muppet performers and from the fans too.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that's interesting because my sister is the absolute biggest fan of the Count. So when I saw that, I was like, oh my gosh, I always loved that. I grew up watching Sesame Street as well.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
But I really got to know the Count because my sister just couldn't get enough of that. What is that like for you? Because you've got to have fans like that know the Count or know Big Bird or know these different characters you're playing.
Yeah, it's amazing, and it's great to be able to embody these characters and keep them alive for those performers that came before me, and then also to recognize how they do affect people, how they do love these characters. So I'm just very grateful. I'm very grateful for the opportunities that I've been given, for sure.
Well, and it's interesting. Sesame Street, obviously, for the most part, it's a younger demographic, but the Muppets,
Yeah.
you know, who doesn't love the Muppets? So
Exactly.
so that you're dealing with two different audiences there. You're definitely dealing with a lot of adults when it comes to the Muppets.
Yeah, and I feel like with the Muppets more so than Sesame Street, because you're right, Sesame Street is really predominantly for now is predominantly for like the under 2 age group.
Right.
Although we do skew a little bit higher on certain parts of the show, and but the Muppets has always been for everybody, for the little guys all the way up to, you know, grandparents and beyond, and that's when it's really exciting, when we can try to get everybody and let everybody enjoy something. That's the sweet spot for the Muppets.
Yeah. So I got so much stuff going on here in my head. You got so much going on in my head here. I want to get back to what's the difference for you, because I was only a body actor. So what is the difference between being a puppeteer and then doing the body acting? What challenges do you see with both of those?
They're very similar, I would say, overall. The biggest difference to me is when I am at Sesame Street and I am playing the Count, for example. I'm sitting on a rolling seat that sits on the floor. I've got my arms up in the air, and next to me is Carmen Ospar, and she's got Rosita up in the air, and next to me over here is Ryan Dillon, and he's got Elmo on, and you know, somebody's assisting me. I've got, you know, Jen Barnhart is assisting me, and Pam Arciero is assisting Carmen, and we're all right there, and we can kind of see each other, and we're all able to kind of coexist as one unit.
Wow.
When I am inside Big Bird, all of that is gone. It's really isolating. I'm sure this is familiar to you,
Yes.
Gary.
It is very familiar to me.
It's isolating. You know, even though I can feel them, I know that they're there, and I can see them on my monitor. I can see that they're there. I don't have that feeling of togetherness that I did when I was sitting on the floor, when I'm inside Big Bird. You can't do it. It doesn't work the same, and that's really the biggest part of it. And it's not a bad thing. That's the biggest difference to me. The heat or any of that stuff doesn't matter to me. The weight of the puppet, that's a thing that that kind of matters to me a bit.
Right.
But, and being isolated doesn't really affect me now. And I don't know that it really did too much. You know, but those are the biggest differences that I can see.
Didn't it? For me, it just really made me focus. I mean, you really, because you're there, so you're really focusing. And obviously, whether it's a purple dinosaur or a big yellow bird, everyone's watching you. I mean, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, everyone's watching you.
Yeah.
And so I think there's that pressure to stay in character, obviously, but also just everything. I don't know. I was just so focused.
Yeah, I agree. Inside the puppet, it's a lot easier to stay focused. When you're down on the floor, and you know, people are talking and they're pointing at lines, or they're saying like, I might see this, or you know, people are chatting about what they did for lunch, or you know, it's a little harder for me to be a part of that conversation. So it is a lot easier for me to be focused and to kind of just hone in on what it is that I'm trying to do. Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, because we used to joke, because you know, obviously we talked about earlier, the voice actors. They'd be in my ear talking about lunch and all that kind of stuff. And it's a completely different thing, because, you know, they're in booths and all that. It's kind of what you're talking about with the puppeteers. And then with us, you know, when you've got the weight and the heat and you know, you're performing with kids, which may not get their take right, you know, you have to be right every time.
Yeah. You do kind of have to be on the ball as much as you can. And
right.
You know, another, what was it I was going to say when you said something there? It made me think of something. Oh, shoot, what was it? I can't remember. It'll come back to me. I think it'll come back to me in a minute. But you're right. It is, you have to kind of be on. You really do. Oh, I remember what it is. So a big difference between you and I is that big difference between the two of us is that I don't know how long you had to stay inside, Barney. I'm guessing
a long
long
time.
time.
A long time.
Wow.
20 minutes, maybe more. I don't know.
Like hours.
Oh God. Okay,
Wow.
so I didn't have to do that. I can't really because I've
Right.
got my arm up holding the puppet, and we have our wranglers they come over in between every take. If I had my druthers and it's a long take, they'll take me out of the puppet. So I'll come out and get a little bit of air and go back in. But I can't be, the longest I could compare that to would be doing doing the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, because there's no coming out of the bird. You're sitting in the bird in the nest, and everybody sees you the whole time, and you better be on the whole time, because you're going for about an hour or so, and that's hard. That's really hard. So I feel for you there, because that is difficult.
Yeah, we were not able to get out as much, so I built up I was in unbelievable shape because you were just living in it. We made some adjustments at times, but like the event I talked about with Carol, that was crazy for me because they would take it off, and then a minute before we went on, he could become Big Bird, but I had to stay through the whole thing because there was just not an ability to do that.
Yeah. Ugh. That's tough.
And it's funny you talk about Macy's though, because I did that as well a couple times, and that's an absolutely incredible experience because all the people. I mean,
wow.
What's it like for you? Because I love this. Because you're doing the whole parade as well, right? You're doing the whole route before the TV appearance. I'm trying to explain to people you've been out there for hours by the time you get dressed and they get you on the float and all that. And then there's a sign, that says you're getting ready into the TV zone.
Wow.
And all of a sudden now you've got to step it up again because millions of people don't realize you've been in this costume for hours.
Yeah.
Now you have to perform for, all the people
millions
on TV. Millions
more.
more.
Yeah, it's insane. I mean, it's that feeling, that live appearance feeling when you're going down Central Park West, and it is an unbelievable feeling looking up. And sometimes, I'll do Big Bird one year, and then I will not do Big Bird the next year. I'll do the count. Just so I just need not to do it every year, and because my enjoyment of it lessens over time. But I'll get to do the count, and that's when, again, maybe this is it, Carrie. Maybe it's because, again, inside Big Bird in the nest, isolated. Even though I've got Ryan in front of me with Elmo and Leslie with Abby in front of me, still very isolating. But when I'm inside the float, and I've got the count on, and then Marty Robinson's there with Telly, and it's again, I'm feeling that feeling of togetherness and inclusiveness. All of us are together, kind of having this shared experience, rather than me just being this guy inside Big Bird, just trying to muscle my way through this time. But it's an amazing experience.
Yeah, that's funny because we'd have Baby Bop and BJ be with us, but we're all in the same boat, so we can't talk. We can't, we can't really. So it's afterwards, and on the plane flight back, talking about each other's experience because we can't talk to each other. And then also we deal with weather doing that parade.
Oh yeah.
I don't know if you had one. I've had one in the rain. I don't know if you had one.
Oh yeah. But we've had one at least, and it'll vary. It'll be raining. We had one year that it rained so much that the paint on the inside of the float, dripped down and was, getting in danger of getting puppets. And then we've had years where it's been really warm, just really warm. And then other years will be just bitterly cold, just so cold. You cannot get warm. It's so cold. So it's a crazy experience year after year, for sure.
Yeah, I did one in Minnesota. It was for Target. Barney was the Grand Marshal, and it was negative some ridiculous amount.
Yeah.
where the patrons were actually up in the sky bridges. While there was actually no one on the street, the characters. And I have never, usually I'm so warm, it's not a big deal, but they were actually bringing me hand warmers and things for my fingers and toes and all that stuff.
Oh man. You're not kidding. That's a cold parade.
It was, yeah,
Wow.
yeah. You get, but that's once again, it's the same thing, right? The kids are there to see you, and they don't know and understand.
Yeah,
You
and
just,
it's amazing to look down at that parade in particular, looking down an avenue and seeing the rows and rows and rows and rows and rows and rows. I mean, just like I don't know how many dozens deep, 50 deep, of people just crowded around, and you can hear them, shouting to you, "Hey, Big Bird!" And
Wow.
I don't know if they can hear us because it's so loud. The whole experience is just loud because there's so much cheering the whole way down. But we'll yell back to them, we'll yell something as Big Bird, and when we kind of stop and it's a little quieter moment, you can talk back and forth with the people on the the police officers or the parade watchers, parade goers.
Wow.
yeah,
It's fun.
yeah, it is. It's really cool. So I got to ask you of an experience you had recently, where you were a puppeteer and in a body costume on The
Right.
Masked Singer.
Yeah. Okay. So that was
Yeah,
so
that I'd never seen the Masked Singer because even though you said Masked Singer, well, I got a chance to see bits and pieces of Masked Singer, but that's just me. Continue on.
much fun. That was a lot of fun. It was, it was literally one of the most secretive things that I have ever done. I couldn't tell anybody about it. Went out to LA, and they had built this snail
Wow.
character,
Sure.
and the snail was very low to the ground,
Wow.
and they had built the snail on top of a wheelchair, like a self-motivated wheelchair. It wasn't the best quality wheelchair because you would push the thing to go, and it would go click click, and it would slowly move forward, or whichever way you wanted to go. And then the hat, there was a big hat on this snail, and that's where my head was. So I got to do the singing part just as me in this wheelchair,
Okay.
moving out on stage and doing the song and trying to do a little bit of choreography. There was some PVC pipe in the head of the snail that I could reach out and grab, and I could shake from side to side or move forward if I wanted to,
Right.
which I did because I had to. I'm a
Sure.
puppeteer. I want to manipulate as much as I can. There's
Wow.
not a lot of movement in it, but it was a beautiful character. But then Kermit was the one who was to be revealed, and so I said, we had to talk all this through ahead of time. We couldn't just do it in the spur of the moment. We had to talk it through and say, like, well, what happens if you're selected? And I said, well, if I'm selected, we have to take the wheelchair out of there, and I'm going to have to sit on the floor, because if not, I would sit in the wheelchair and I couldn't get my arm
Right.
I couldn't extend my arm. It just
Wow.
wouldn't work. So there were amazing crew, and they just so what happens is, this big secret is, what happens is they say Snail's going home, and then they say goodbye to everybody else, and then they stop down, and then they take Snail off, or whoever it is, and let's say it's a regular person, they take them off, they put them in hair and makeup, they make them look really good, they bring them back on, they put the helmet back on, they put the hat back on, they come back out, and then they reveal them, and they look great. So that's what they're going to do with Kermit now. So we go off, they take the shell off the wheelchair, we come out, I'm sitting on the floor, and and the rest is, you can see that on YouTube or wherever. It's Kermit coming out of there,
Which I haven't seen before because we'll get to that on future eligible ads episode. Excuse me. Continue on.
and it was so much fun. I mean, they really had no idea. I had no idea who anybody else was because it was so secretive. We had like our own team. Everybody had their own producer team, and they only referred to me as Snail. Nobody knows who I am, but I had to wear a visor and a hat and a like cloak. I could not talk to anybody, and they moved us back and forth that way. It was insane, and but a really cool experience. It's a lot of fun.
Wow.
Well, it was brilliant because I'm shocked like everyone that
Yeah.
they got Kermit.
The first time I think a fictional character has been revealed on The Masked Singer. But it's kind of fun.
It's brilliant. Well, I want to finish up just asking what it's like for you to go from these different characters, because I can't stop thinking about the Count now. I mean, to go from Big Bird to the Count, there's different levels, obviously, you have to get up of energy, whether you're in a suit or all of those things. What is it like do you just kind of get into that character? Do you have to, like, pull out a Big Bird and then get your head into being the Count? How does that all go for you?
The thing that they all have in common, I'm realizing, is that they are all energy. There's this energy about them, and they all have, like, some of them have more of a roundedness to them, and some of them have less. So the Count, while he is a very rounded character, he is an obsessive character. He is obsessed with numbers. He has an obsession with numbers. Mm-hmm. So it's just that energy of putting this obsession with numbers into it. I find it now, anyway, fairly easy to go from one to the, if I had to go from one to the other to the next. But none of them, well, I will tell you this. It's easier for me, let's say, this is a character that I play called Uncle Deadly, who is this kind of a blue, dragony, catfishy looking character. I don't know what he is. He's just he's a phantom. He's the Phantom of the Muppet Theater. And for some reason, I can just put that puppet on and just talk as the character. Other characters, like Kermit, even still, I need to have a little bit of guidance, a little bit of written guidance. And so we have a writer named Jim Lewis, who's this veteran Muppet writer, and he has like a joke for everything. And he's fantastic. And so when a certain event comes up, I need him to kind of help get me to where I need to be with the written word for Kermit, and for some of the other characters too. But like Uncle Deadly, I generally could just put him on and just go. So it's interesting. I can get into those characters fairly quickly and easily. They are just this energy. What is the energy that is Floyd? What is the energy that is Big Bird? What is the energy that's Sweetums? They're all just different energy levels and pieces of me, or pieces of that performer that came before me that I identify with, and then I just like Jerry Nelson used to say it was like a little piece of him that he would just blow up and make bigger than life. And that's kind of what I try to do with these characters.
Yeah, the Big Bird will be close because of Carol, but Sweetums is my absolute favorite. So the fact that you do that one, I absolutely love that character. I cannot thank you enough. I have had such a good time talking with you and hearing these stories, and it just makes me feel so special to hear someone else that kind of has the same experiences. You get into this crazy world and you just realize how lucky you are to have this experience.
Absolutely. Every day that I get to do this, I'm grateful, for sure.
Well, thank you so much for being on, and I would love to have you back sometime if you would come back and visit a little bit, because I can talk to you for a long time.
Absolutely, it'd be my pleasure.
Well, thank you so much for watching Purple Roads. Remember to keep your eyes, ears, and your heart open, and you'll find your Purple Road. We'll see you next week.
So that was Purple Roads Podcast, episode 35. Matt Vogel, the Muppet performer of Big Bird, The Count, Kermit the Frog, and many others. What do I think about this video episode? It was amazing. So far, this episode went to be a success. And difficulties from the episode, Purple Roads Podcast. But anyways, guys, that was episode of LJPCBM, episode number 711. Hope you enjoy it. Stay tuned for the next one. It's going to be Spin for a Million, Season 1, Episode 9. Till next time, it's Joseph. Bye. Peace out, baby. Excuse me. We get more to be asked to me soon. Till then, Jefferson out. See ya.
never take for granted. And given all the time I failed to really understand it, I never sought to meet the maker of reality, the one who gave the life that which is always happening. But I tried all the time. Why me? Why was I the one to see things as I do under the moonlight and the sun? Perception is the question, and the giver holds the key.